Great. You can try. Everything.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Actors in Conversation. I'm your host, Monica Bowman, as always. Today with me, I have an incredible actor, a singer, a dancer, a writer. He is the lead in Mrs. Sing and Me, and also the writer and the co-founder of the comedy sketch, I Can't Believe It's Not Butter Chicken, the wonderful Munish Sharma.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Thank you very much. I'm good. I'm doing all right. I'm here with you, so I'm good.
Thank you. So we have so much to talk about today. You have quite the resume, the history. So we're gonna go slow.
Okay,
but what
cool.
I do want to first get started with is, let's start with your dance. You're a very versatile actor, but you do burlesque dancing as well.
Yeah, I used to do burlesque dancing. There was a couple of years that I did that for. Yeah, as a hobby and as just a general love, I love to dance.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing it, and I've been doing it pretty much like most, people start when they're about 3 or whatnot. So
Yeah.
I started it then and never really stopped. And I had the opportunity to perform in the burlesque scene for a multiple amount of years, kind of, and then kind of transitioned out of that to kind of focus more on film and TV and theater primarily. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
What type of dance do you do other than burlesque?
It's like free dance.
Free dance,
It's
yeah,
this
anything.
vibe, kind of just doing whatever.
That's
I love to
awesome.
just dance. So, and
He has many videos on his Instagram.
yes, I do.
You do.
Every once in a while, yeah. So that's kind of where it started from. I kind of actually started started to do burlesque out of more of a dare. So yeah, and it kind of works.
Just took off.
Yeah, definitely. So I had the opportunity. A friend of mine, I'm very close with. She used to work at Pi Theater.
Okay.
And they were doing this cabaret, and so she kind of dared me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was part of the whole fundraiser. Was like Dare You was the thing. So they asked artists to do something that's kind of not in their wheelhouse. And so she dared me to do burlesque because she knew that I enjoyed
not
dancing.
in your wheelhouse, though.
Yeah, right. And so that's when I started to do it. And I just was initially was going to learn one burlesque piece.
Uh-huh.
And I was introduced to Burgundy Bricks, who is a burlesque performer. And so she partnered with me and we got to team up and I worked on one little piece for that cabaret.
Oh.
And I got to do it. And when I started to do it, there was a couple of women that were there and they ran to the stage and they started throwing money at me. And I was like, hey, this is weird. And I was scared, right?
Yeah,
because
it's the first time.
Yeah, it's one thing to like dance and like just enjoy that. It's another thing when you're performing and dancing.
Strip on stage.
And taking off your clothes, whatever you're comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
And so it was kind of crazy. And actually Burgundy Bricks, she just kept recommending. She said, I would really love for you to come to Kitty Nights is the show that used to happen. And she's like, I just love you to perform it once. And so I was like, okay.
Sounds good.
I'll give it a try because again, I've like experience is pretty big for me. So I was like, I'll give it a try. We'll see what happens. And I got to do it there and people loved it. And I don't mean to like toot my own horn, but I got a standing ovation and they started cheering. And one of my close friends was like, this is what you were born to do. And I was like, I don't know about that, but thank you, right? And so after that, it just kind of stuck around and I was really welcomed into the burlesque community here.
Yep.
It's a beautiful community. And so that's kind of what pulled me into it. And I started doing a bit more every once in a while. And I got to meet in the world, like some of the best burlesque performers reside here. And so I got to work with a few of them for many years. And it's a great experience. It really helped me to become a better artist because I was in a different kind of community. But yeah.
That's so cool. I know I've done only a little bit of burlesque, but it's
good for you.
It's one of the most vulnerable dance styles. As fun as it is, you do have to, as far as you're comfortable, take off your clothes in front of people for the purpose of the show, and it's exhilarating, it's fun, it's empowering.
Yes, I will definitely agree with that. It's empowering and powerful for sure. And there is a level of vulnerability. And there's also so much art. I mean, in the years that I've got to work with so many of the burlesque performers in Vancouver, the multiple talents that they possess, because it's very interesting because you learn it on the other side, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I started to do burlesque, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, "You mean like stripping, right?"
Yeah,
And
it's the first thing you think of.
Yeah, and depending on the school of thought that you've kind of introduced to, some people will say yes it is, and some people will say no it's not. But the power of it is still equal, right?
Exactly.
And so the more I started to do it, I started to introduce, like I said, I met a number of really phenomenal performers who had multiple talents. It's like, you know, similar to like singing, dancing, acting, designing, construction of pieces.
Yeah.
There's so many layers of it. So it was great for myself because I kind of found a number of my kind of people who
Yeah.
used a multitude of talents to kind of create something. So there's like this really cool artsy kind of vibe that exists in burlesque that also is just beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's also just super hot and attractive,
Yeah.
and empowering, and all the great stuff. So
You're making me want to go do more burlesque now.
I-
You've sold me.
I would suggest, I would literally give it a try. It's very freeing. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So, did you always want to be an actor? life?
Yes.
Like, definitely.
I would say I definitely can remember a lot of moments growing up where I knew. I mean, there's like, you know, the being in kindergarten and people
Yeah.
asking you what you want to be. I have a few, like there's one kind of story that really pulled it out of me. So the reason I knew I was meant to be an actor is because I got held back when I was in elementary school, and
Okay.
so I was kind of a late bloomer, and so I didn't learn how to read and write really quickly, like most of my cohorts and my peers. So I was in about grade 3, and I just started reading and like becoming
Yeah.
a better reader and writer, and we were doing Peter Pan. And so at the time, would be considered maybe to some people like a bad kid, right?
Yeah.
So we're like,
Okay.
I wouldn't do much because I didn't want to make a lot of noise because at that time you're pretty fragile. So I thought I was just a stupid kid, right?
Exactly. You think you're stupid, but you're not.
Yeah, right. But you, as a kid, when you get held back a grade or something, and you kind of get made to feel like you're not like the rest, right? And so just remember all the kids, and it was like a smash class of grade 3 and grade 4, and all the kids had to audition. All of them did. And so one of the teachers wrote on the blackboard the sentence that everyone was supposed to say. And initially, me and my not so cool friends were going to be like, whatever, we'll blow this off, and then we'll just be in the chorus, and
Yeah.
we don't have to do anything. And when our turn came, I realized I could read what was on the blackboard. And it was very exciting because I would never dare to like read anything because I was afraid, but I could read it. And I was super excited. And I was like, I have something to offer. So I yelled really loud, like it was like Captain Hook. So I was like, blast that Peter Pan. I'll catch him if it's the last thing I ever do. And the whole classroom just like stopped because it was like Munish who like,
This isn't you.
Yeah.
You don't ever
you
come
don't-
out like this.
Yeah, right. And then my teacher was very proud of me. And then they cast me as Captain Hook. And so that was kind of
awesome.
that was kind of the beginning of being like, no, even if I was a child and being like, I want to be an actor, this kind of moment happened in my life where I was like, no, I am supposed to do this.
Yeah. What a
And-
strange phenomenon
Yeah.
that was the moment you knew you could read what was on the blackboard.
Yeah.
That's
It's
a sign.
Yeah, that was definitely, and I mean, in hindsight, of course, you'll take it as a sign, but as a kid, I remember just being like, I can read this.
Exactly.
I can do this. I'm going to do this, right?
It's
So-
very simple when you're a kid. You're just like, yes, I can do this now.
Yeah.
But as an adult, you're like, wow, that was a moment.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool. And that kind of brought you, which brings us to your theater work,
Yeah.
which you've done quite a lot of. So I guess I'll start with, you were one of the lead characters in Iceland,
Yeah.
directed by the wonderful Kathleen Dubourg.
Amazing, yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about, first, what that show's about?
Well, the overlying part of it, depending on where you come at it, is capitalism.
Yeah.
Right? The joys of it and our perspectives of how we are all capitalists in certain ways. The play written by Nicholas Beyond, it's just amazing. And I got to work with some phenomenal actresses
Yeah.
as well, like Lindsay Angel and Georgia Beatty. So, and Kathleen, she directed it. So it was a great experience because, again, talking about moments, that was the first show in the Vancouver theater community where I was allowed to actually trying to construct a full character, had a larger kind of part to play, right?
Which is what I was going to ask you about, was that character is labeled as like crass and sexist and terrible.
Yeah.
Were there any challenges with that character?
Yeah.
Yeah, we found some challenges. Because some people love playing evil, but sometimes it's a struggle.
Yeah, it was a struggle. I mean, it did definitely depend on the time of my career and where I was kind of coming into it. Was like, I remember Kathy would constantly be like, "You have to love your character. You have to love your character."
The hardest part.
And I was like, "But this isn't me." And I'm like, "Well, that's not the point." You know what I mean? You're not trying to be yourself on stage. I mean, there might be times when you need to be, but you have to love the character you play. I mean, especially for the service of the story, right? If you're too big, so I started to realize that. So it was a challenge.
Yeah, because if you don't love even no matter how awful your character is, if you don't love them, you can't play them.
Yeah.
You can't do them justice.
Yeah. I mean, especially depending on the story you're trying to tell, right?
Yes.
If you're doing your best to share something greater, you have to embody the part you're playing so that that story can be clear. You know, if you're the bad guy in a way, if you're trying to play someone who is what's the word, like not redeemable at all, right? And you try to slink in some redeemability there, you're not helping the story, right?
Yeah.
So it depends. So it was tough.
For sure.
Kathy was awesome about coaching me and helping me, and she's also become a really good mentor. So, but yeah.
It takes a lot to play those characters and make sure you tell the story, because that's what comes first, the story. That's where we are all in service to the story.
Yeah, definitely. I am one of those performers that does believe that. Regardless of how talented or skilled you are as a person, when you come into a room and you're creating something with somebody, you're telling a story, right? And you might, in some cases, be the central figure of that story, right? So it might circle around you a bit more. There might be a different kind of weight that you provide to it, but all together, all of you are telling a story together, right? And you can tell, obviously, when things come together, it's beautiful, right?
Yeah, you can tell when everyone is on the same page.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the thing.
Yep.
You can tell when you walk into a theater and the story is clear and crisp, but all the characters are well developed and doing something that you're like, everyone is on the same page about this story.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
That's when it's fun. I mean, even going, we all everyone I've ever met is always striving for that. So it's not a case of being
You're never going to necessarily get that. You're just like, let's try.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, Iceland, such a fantastic show, but you also wrote the play Mrs. Singh and Me.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about the process of writing that and where that comes from?
The process was very hard because I kind of challenged myself to write a play. So I used to do a lot of sketch comedy, and so I got kind of comfortable with writing sketch.
Yeah.
And that became comfortable to me. So I was like, what's the next kind of thing to do to work on challenging yourself as a performer and something you'd want to share? So I was like, I'll try to write a one-act play. And I wrote it, I started writing it in 2009 or 2010.
Okay.
But the opportunity to actually start working on it didn't actually arise until about 2014, when I actually met Kathy, because Kathleen is the reason she directed it.
Yes, yeah.
And so I finally found somebody who was not just telling me how to make the story better, but was actually showing me, right? So that's why I consider her a really great mentor. But it was tough because getting out of the sketch model, right?
Yeah.
Building characters, arcs, ups and downs, layers. Ask what's the central question of the story. You know, I mean, you start off thinking, oh, this is really great, and then you get to work with a dramaturg or working with a strong director who's worked with story, asking you questions, being like, I never thought of that, and being like, oh, this is we get to this point as writers, you go, this is horrible. Why am I doing this?
I'm never writing again.
Yeah, like this is the worst thing ever. But then the next day you go, oh, okay, let's just give it a try. So it was a challenge for a very long time. I will say it took me about 7 years to get one show to happen. And in that process, I did share it with a number of people. Yeah. And I got just keep going at it, but no actual support until I met Kathy, and also a relationship that I kind of built throughout the years with South Asian arts. they've always like been there for me, and they've just supported myself as an artist. They got behind it, and we were able to get into the Fringe. And so
it won Pick of the Fringe as well.
Yes, it was one of the shows that was selected as Pick of the Fringe, which
that's an audience honor. This is the favorite show of the audience.
Yeah, I super grateful for it. I mean, everything does happen when it should. So it was quite serendipitous because I remember this is, now I do far more, but I remember at the time, just started to like the idea of visualizing and believing. So I used to think about doing the show at the Cultch. I wanted to do it at the historic venue that they have there, right? And it kind of all fell into place. It was just like one domino needed to go, right?
And then it just all kept rolling.
Yeah, and I was very grateful for that. I didn't expect it. I mean, obviously, I was telling as many of my friends as possible to be like, hey, I wrote a play, come check it out. And thankfully, because I enjoy comedy, there was still a
large
lot of
community.
Right? And so people did come out to support. And then it did take off with a lot of other, it just took off at the Fringe. And it's definitely a highlight of my life, but because I didn't expect any of that. So then here you are, and you're like, this is great. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
It's a turn that's crazy, though, the way things happen. You get those dominoes rolling, and then suddenly, like, everything you wanted has just, like, fallen into your lap, and you're like, let's roll with this. Let's go.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. And you also were in it.
Yes.
You played the main character.
Yes. One of the
main characters.
Yeah.
What is it like working inside a play you wrote?
Horrible.
Terrible. Don't do it.
I would have to say it has to do with, and I say this in retrospect, most of it has to do with thinking about it as a writer. The character itself, the character of Raj was loosely based off of me, right? So there's a difference where, like, writing Mrs. Singh was a character and you could construct it, and there's like more of an exciting part about it. So in the realm of what Raj wants and what Mrs. Singh wants, Raj is kind of boring in my own eyes as a writer, because that's the problem that comes in. He brings it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Mrs. Singh had the ability to be anything and everything, right?
But you already kind of had based this character. You knew this character.
Yeah. So, and again, Kathy really was like, because the characters they're both, the Raj originally was made to be like somebody who's in their mid-20s.
Yeah.
And so at the time I was like in my early 30s. And so I felt that I was too old to play it now. And Kathy was like, well, you don't know if you'll get to do this show ever again. Nothing's
That's
ever,
true.
like, you don't really know. So it might be a great opportunity to play it at least once, to say that you got to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, okay. So I got to work with Nimet Kanji, who is a wonderful actress as well. And it was great, but it was hard. I always knew Mrs. Singh was like the way the character got to the way Nimet helped to create it as well. There was always a great pull, right? And she's the funny one in a way. And
she's that fire.
Yeah, she's the fire. Yeah, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was great, yeah. But
definitely
it was
hard to switch between writer and actor brain.
Yeah.
When you did both.
Yes, because you're still also, I've come to learn that if you're going to write something, you can direct it, or you can be in it, but you have to be aware of the trade-offs there. Never try to do all three.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, if you can do it, great. But it's one of those things where, as a writer, your brain is kind of going, even when you're in, being like, does that line work? And it sounds weird to say out loud now, because I never really think that way, but that's what happens, right?
But that's what happens because you wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And the fact that people liked it is what I'm most grateful of, right?
Yeah,
So
it had a great review.
Yeah, it could never have happened. So it went from being, just something that I dreamed about to something that happened. So,
on the topic of, you worked with South Asian arts. You worked with them as the Butter Chicken Troupe.
Yes, yeah.
Which is awesome. Love the name.
Thank you.
And you created with them the sketch comedy, I Can't Believe It's Not Butter Chicken.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit just about the sketch comedy, what you guys do?
Oh, I would love to. I mean, so Lena Monrona, we recreated it in like 2008. So we kind of both moved to Vancouver around the same time, and we, like her and I, we had, and we still do, but we had this wonderful chemistry about making each other laugh. And so that's where it started. We're like these, these two newcomers who just kind of are pursuing their careers. And so Lena is actually the writer. So she's the one that started to write a lot of the sketches, right? And so, I would be like, I would read them and I'd be like, these are hilarious, right?
She's like, look, I love these.
We have to make these happen, right? And we didn't know anybody. And so we started to she had a number of sketches and we're like, we have to do these. And I just remember being like, let's do it.
Let's just put it on.
Yeah, let's just put it on. That's the best thing you can do. And so she encouraged me to write, because at that time I was like, I just want to act, right? As most young actors do, like when you get out of acting school, you want to act, right?
Exactly.
So I'm
That's what you went to school for.
This is what I do, right? So, and so she encouraged me to start to write. So that's when I started to write more sketches. And because we had such a good chemistry, and I love comedy and just characters in general, kind of took off. And then we started to do them just around here, actually, and on Powell Street. It was called Box Studios. So we got to do this one show one night. We invited everybody. This is before social media vibes, right? So it's I got phone numbers being like, hey, what are you doing on the Saturday? Please come out, check out this show.
Yeah.
And we crammed about, I think it was we got about 100 people to come see our first show.
Hell yeah.
Right? And it was like a one-time thing. And it's one of those things too where you start where people are like, I'll support you, pal. You know what I mean? I'll go see it. It's one of those things.
I'll go see your show. Right? I'll see how it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of actors, friends, or people around you who just do that. Be like, I'm here to support you, right? So, and we got out and we were very grateful. A lot of our friends came out and a number of other people that I know we didn't know, right? But they caught wind of it because we did our best to promote it.
Yeah.
And people loved it. And so we're like, okay. So we redid the show 2 weeks later and we didn't get as many people, but people came again. And then people started to hear about it. And Lena still knew a few people here. And she had an old friend that used to work, and she had a company called South Asian Arts.
Yeah.
So we got to work together.
Hell yeah.
And so they came in and oh, we want to help produce the show.
And they were kind of established.
Yes, yeah. They were already making waves when we moved here. So I was like, I mean, again, being here for only a year, a year and a half, I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
And so we got to do shows and we were produced. And we went from being doing one show a year kind of thing to doing 2 shows a year, 2 shows that are 8-show runs.
Yeah.
And we would sell them out and we would do them. And we were pretty much running like a theater company. And I say that in hindsight again, right? We didn't know we were just doing sketches, right?
But you were running a theater company to put on these shows.
Yeah, yeah. And so it turned into a full-time job. And in the beginning, it was literally myself, Lena, and another awesome actor, Jason Vesvela, who we were the 3 musketeers. And so we worked really well together. And so that was just us 3. And then we kind of built our team after that. And but Lena, myself, and Jason, we did so much together, right? So that's when we started writing together. And so that's where the directing and the producing and the
all those skills kind of came in where you were like, wow.
Yeah, super grateful for those days because I don't even know if I'd be where I am now if I hadn't had the ability to do that. So, but it was great. And South Asian Arts that's where I started to build a really strong and respectful relationship with them because even since then, they've had my back with everything, right?
That's awesome.
And I appreciate that because we all need that from someone, right? So,
especially helpful when it's a company that can support you that way, which gives you energy, the kind of energy and funds you need to be able to produce your own work, which is a commendable effort. Producing your own work is hard.
It is. And again, like I said, now we look at it and we're super grateful. When you're in it, you don't you're just in it. You're just oh, we got to do this and make this, and it's still fun.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But you're not even thinking about you're not even thinking about anything else except what do I need to do? I need to do this, and you're having fun, but I don't know, you don't always think about the fun. You just think about what you're doing.
Yep,
and when it's over, then you get to think about was it fun or not.
Oh yeah, we had some great closing night parties after once we were in it. Once we were finished, and we had a great time doing it too. Yeah. So A lot of great memories, yeah.
That's awesome. On your website, quickly, just because I want to tell you how much I love the description on your website, which says, yes, I have a website. I looked at that, I was like, nice. Me too. Love it.
Everyone has a website, even me, yeah.
I think talking to you, I'm like, very character revealing. Very character revealing.
Yep.
I'm like, nice. We got the comedy, we got the sass.
Yep.
Like, perfect.
All the things
so
needed.
commendable for that. You're also a writer. And you wrote a children's book, The Boy Who Loved to Dance.
Well, I wrote a
child's book, and you've turned it into...
we turned it into a shadow play.
Yes.
And so earlier this year, actually, a friend of mine and I, he's a puppeteer, and I presented the idea of being like, Ken, I'd really like to turn this into something because it is a challenge to publish a children's book, right? And so I had been submitting it to a few places, and it wasn't working out, and it's not in me to just give up.
Yeah.
And I saw this opportunity, and I'm like, I have a very talented friend who works in puppetry, so we're like, can I just turn something into maybe like a little shadow puppet shadow play? Like, it's 5 minutes, and we did it this year, and Pie Theatre commissioned it. Another theater that's been very helpful in my maturation as an artist, but yeah, so we put it up this year, and people watched it, so that's good.
Like, hell yeah.
I hope people continue to watch it. We got some really great feedback from it, and so yeah.
Where did the inspiration for the book and play come from?
Dance.
Personal? Dance, yeah.
And just focusing on, so the premise of the shadow play, or the story, is between a grandfather and his grandson.
Yeah.
And so it's essentially about a little boy coming home from school and being told by his other friends that boys don't dance. And it's something that...
super important.
Yeah. Then I've heard it. I've met a number of boys who've turned into men that have heard it. And so it was one of those things where it's like, how could I nurture this idea of it doesn't matter what you look like.
Yeah.
If you love to dance, then you should dance. So that's kind of where the premise of the story came from.
Oh, no, I love that. I wish that's something, my brother, when we were growing up, we all did ballet together.
Wonderful.
Love my parents. We all did ballet together, but my brother's a boy.
Yeah.
Doing ballet is weird for boys when they were young, at that time. And he got picked on a little bit because of it. And I think, that's something I wish people would have read at that time and been like, boys can dance too, or anybody can dance.
Yep.
Doesn't matter your identification or et cetera, that anyone can
rhythm
dance.
exists in all of us. So, you
That's
just got to
awesome.
find it. So
Yeah, that's really, really cool. You've done so many things to talk about.
Well, thank you, yeah.
But on the topic of Pie Theatre that you've brought up, you were an artist in residence with Pie Theatre.
Yes, yeah.
What is it like being an artist in residence? I don't know too much on it myself.
Well, I didn't know either until this year. So it's interesting because it's a wonderful thing depending on what you'd like to learn.
Okay.
You know what I mean? In certain cases, some residencies provide the ability to put on a show, right? Or cultivate your work, which is what Pi did, definitely for me. But also it gave me the ability, I really wanted to work more on the understanding of grant writing, or kind of understanding the business side of theater a lot more.
Yep.
Like you mentioned, artistically, I love to create, right? So I live by the mantra that I'm always working on something, right? So there's that joy, but finding out how to get it to a certain place, understanding how other things work is still very beneficial. So the residency for myself was very wonderful because I got to properly understand more about the abilities of writing grants, what they're looking for, the cycle that is the grant cycle, right?
Yeah.
And anybody who writes grants will be like, oh, they're tough, they're hard, and everything that's worth having is a challenge. So you need to learn about it. And so that was great. And then again, like I said, I've got the ability, I was commissioned to work on The Boy Who Loved to Dance. And I also was commissioned to work on something else for the National Arts Center this year.
Amazing.
Through Pi.
Yep.
And I have, again, speaking of certain communities or theaters that I'm very grateful to, is Pi is another one, because South Asian arts has nurtured a lot, but Pi Theater, I got to do one of my other big roles from them. And Richard is also another mentor who has helped me understand how I work, how I'd like to work. So it's been great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I think one of my last questions then will be on your more personal work. You're working on 2 one-person shows right now? You have 2 different ones kind of in the works?
Yeah, one's kind of way down the line. The other one is kind of a bit more...
So what's the one that's up here? What's the one that we're...
Dance Boy.
Dance Boy.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about Dance Boy.
Dance Boy, so thinking about what it is that I'd like to do artistically in the next 10 years, I started asking myself other questions about what it is I have to offer, right? And so what kind of service I can give in the work that I make. And so just like with The Boy Who Loved to Dance, Dance Boy is also a premise about dance. And it's kind of, I would say, autobiographical. I can't even say the word right now, but it's based off of stories of growing up, but it's kind of gotten a lot of tones and rhythms to it.
Yeah.
So,
very cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And,
that's awesome.
I got to
do you have a timeline for putting it up?
We just finished doing a presentation for the Tremors Festival that happened for Rumble Theatre that actually just passed recently.
Just recently.
And so we got to do about a 25-minute presentation, and we kind of focused on text and form there. And so that's kind of where it's at the moment.
Okay.
It's still bubbling because the script now has a more clear form to it. What we'd like to incorporate as a team is kind of becoming more aware, right? At first it was just kind of bits and pieces. Now there's flow, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm excited to take it to the next step because thus far it's been really, really well received. Depending on where, like I got to do it at the Spring Fuse Festival at the Vancouver Art Gallery last year, and then we got to do it at Tremors and take kind of small steps forward. So the next step is to get some more backing to support the full creation of it. So which with COVID and whatnot,
we'll take a little bit of time. We'll get past it. It's fine.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Yeah.
It'll be there. Amazing. There's so many things I've left to talk about, and I am running out of time.
Okay.
So we will be switching to the questions at the end of the 7.
Sweet.
These are more character questions that will kind of ask you about your personal life. Kind of.
Okay.
So we'll start. I started with number 1 today. We're going to start with number 7 instead. Number 7. Ready?
Okay. It's like lightning round right now. I was like, okay.
Ready?
The first answer. All right.
If there was one person you could go for dinner with and ask anything, who would it be, past or present? You have a dinner with conversation with Cleopatra. Who would it be?
I would probably I'd probably say Nikola Tesla.
Cool.
Yeah, I would love. He has he has a quote about if you want to see the world, see it in like energy, frequencies, vibrations.
Yeah.
And that's played a huge especially in the last half decade. It's played a huge has had a huge impact in how I approach my work. And so, if you learn more about Tesla and how he perceived the world, I mean, to some people that might seem kind of like weird, I guess. But
no, I think that's super cool.
if I had the ability to, I would sit with
talk
Nikola
with
Tesla. Yeah.
I love that. I will be looking into this later. That's cool. And I'm going to get that quote from you then. Number 6. If you were immortal for one day / invincible, what would you do? 24 hours. What would you get up to?
Oh, man. I would try to find my way to the CIA or Interpol, and I would ask them for what are the most darkest or evilest people in the world that are getting away with stuff, and I would try to meticulously find a way to destroy all that stuff.
I love that.
So if it was like, yeah, we got these groups and these groups that are causing a stir, pulling people apart. And I'm like, nobody can hurt me. I'm going to go find these suckers or these people, and I'm going to make sure that they're like, no deal. So that people are like, oh, wait, we're being torn apart by people who don't care about us.
Yeah.
Right? Stuff like that. So
that's cool. That's a great answer. I didn't even think of that. I love that. Cool. Okay. Number 5. What fact amazes you every time you think of it?
Oh, man.
There's a lot.
There's so many beautiful ones. But I mean, your body changes every 7 years, so you're never the person you were in the past.
Yep.
We're all...
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, that's one that always kind of reminds me that you're constantly changing, and so you should do yourself the service of always changing. I think that's the one that always kind of...
is at the forefront.
Yeah.
Because, every single one of your cells by 7 years has regenerated.
Yeah. And also, I'm a huge tortoise fan. Like from the hare and the tortoise, that's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? And like which the idea of frequencies, vibrations, right? So and
yeah.
flow. So picking up vibes, understanding the flow, cycles.
Yeah.
They all play a part in our lives. So if you kind of notice them, it helps you because you'll pick up with bad vibes or you raise the vibe and whatnot. So,
Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. Number 4. What's the weirdest thing you did as a child? I always get that reaction. They're like, my childhood?
Yeah. The weirdest thing, I don't know.
Strangest, weirdest. I'll say childhood's up to the age of 15.
I don't know, because like people might consider weird being the fact that I used to dance in my room all the time. Like I
Acceptable.
would just do whatever I need to do, and then I'd go to my room for like 2 hours and I'd dance around. And it was maybe weird to people who would be like, that was my exercise. And I'd be in my room constructing dances, or constructing dances or working on like this certain things, right?
That you wanted to try out moves and stuff like that?
Without any mirrors and stuff. So it was just mostly just me hanging out in my room. I mean, there's a number of times when my dad would like open the door and be like, turn the volume down. And I'd be like, okay, Sad, yeah, you got it. Like, what was I doing? The robot? Yeah, it's cool. Embarrassed now. I'll shut the music down. So, but,
he caught me.
Yeah.
Fair. Number 3. What is one thing people do that pisses you off more than anything?
Talk over people.
Oh.
Talking over people. It bugs me a lot. It's like listening is important. You'll learn more about things if you listen. And I'm not a big fan of people who talk over people. So if we're having a conversation, there's a difference. You say something, I listen, and I yeah, right. And so that is the one big thing. Like if I'm in a scenario where people just feel the need to talk over people all the time, that person's not a listener and they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one huge pet peeve.
I like it. Number 2, if you could know the absolute truth to one question, what question would you ask?
I would ask if everything truly is energy. That's what I would ask. If I could ask one question, if everything truly is energy, because it would strengthen and challenge the way I would see the world more. And if I knew that everything was energy, I'd just be more mindful of how I approach the people around me and the things that I do. So
cool.
I'd be like,
Cool. And number 1. What's the biggest lie you ever told? Please don't incriminate yourself on camera.
Biggest lie I ever told. Okay, we've
got one. Okay, I'm ready.
It's super, but it's like from when I was a kid. All right,
Let's go.
But I stuffed this down. But I told a number of kids when I was in like grade 1 and 2 that I used to have a pet monkey and snake in India, and that my snake ate my monkey. So I would tell this story because I remember I think the first time I went to India, I was like 3, and then I got to go to India again when I was like 7 or 8, but I made this story up. I just manufactured it, right?
Yeah.
You have a good imagination. So I just tell people that I had this pet monkey and I had this pet snake, and then one day my snake ate my monkey, and I was super choked about it, right? I don't trust my snake anymore because they might eat like just little kid stuff. And so like that was the biggest lie. I kept on to that. Oh, another one is that my friend and I convinced another girl in school that my name was Hamlet.
Oh no.
And she called me Hamlet for years. And then when I told her my name was Munish, she just didn't believe me because that sounded more ludicrous to her after I told her my name is Hamlet.
She thought the second name, she's like, no, it's Hamlet.
Yeah. And I was like, no, my name is Munish. And I was like, you can ask around. And she never spoke to me again, obviously. It was fun that something kind of blew up.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
I love those lies. I love the one about the snake eating your monkey.
Yeah.
I think that's epic.
Yeah, I had a snake. Guess what my snake did? It ate my monkey. Like,
We're all children. No one needs to know about it anymore.
No, yeah. I've revealed a dark
secret here today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now everyone knows. And we are at time.
Wonderful. All right.
So thank you so much for coming down. It's super insightful and super wonderful to hear you talk about all of this.
So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
I appreciate it.
so much. And thank you all for watching this episode of Actors in Conversation. If you like the show, If you enjoyed it, I mean, if you didn't like the show, click down at the bottom to subscribe, and there's links to Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, and you can find us on all social media at Actors in Convo. Thank you guys so much. We've got amazing guests lined up for the next few coming weeks, so you're going to see a lot of cool people. Keep an eye out for that on all of our social media, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.